In this topic, we're going to talk about ARM policies and how they kind of compare and contrast with RBAC. So we've talked about RBAC before in another topic about just role-based access control within Azure and how granular you can get with those. And so with the ARM policies, that's just another level of access management that you can use, and you can put those policies right there in your ARM templates when you're deploying these resources and these applications. And so Kale is going to dive deep into a scenario where you can use both RBAC in the Azure portal and then the ARM policies as well, all in the same scenario.
Yeah, so it's interesting because we have different kind of use cases or uses for both of these, and when you combine them together, they can be pretty powerful, right? So we talked in other modules about RBAC specifically and RBAC policies, how we can basically restrict CRUD type operations for something in Azure, a resource provider, to say you're allowed to create or delete or update this kind of thing. That's interesting, but there's another level that we could actually be applying policies at to do some other things like conditional logic. So ARM policies are really around being able to have some custom business logic you wanted to, for say, and be able to say, let's enforce that as part of the RBAC, which maybe not is around policies, but it's security specifically about whether they can actually create something or not. But it might be something that gets further extended. Let me show you an example here. So if we had an admin that came along and he provisioned a virtual machine up here, let's say. So when he provisioned that virtual machine, that thing's got to be inside of a resource group, right? So we provision everything into resource groups in ARM. And as part of that, maybe hanging off of this VM, we have a tag, right? So we have tags inside of Azure. And specifically, a lot of times what people use these for is billing, right? So we have a large enterprise that's deploying a bunch of resources up here. They're supposed to tag these resources, right? So that at the end of the month, when we get the bill from Azure, we can reference those tags and say, how much did the IT guys use? How much did HR use? How much did one of the other departments like marketing or something use? And so that way they can kind of figure out who used what consumption during the month as part of the enterprise and charge it back to the different departments. That all works great as long as everybody's putting tags in. But what happens if somebody starts provisioning resources and they don't get tagged? Well, then whoever's reconciling that bill at the end of the month is going to say, we have all these unknowns now that we have to go back and trace back and say, who did this? Now, this enterprise may also have good security controls around maybe Ed's an administrator at this group, and he's provisioned this VM, and he did everything he was supposed to do. As far as provisioning, he's allowed to provision new devices. He did that, but he forgot to put the tag in there. So how do we make sure that we can kind of guard against these kind of edge case scenarios? And that's really what the ARM policies are about. Now, they're injected as kind of a script. So we would create a little PowerShell script here, and it's JSON format that we would feed into this. And basically what that JSON would be is a big if-else statement, right? So we would have inside of there the script that would do this big if-else that says, hey, if you see a VM that gets provisioned like this and does not have a tag, then kick it back. So when Ed comes along as administrator and forgets to put that thing in there, he's going to get a bounce back when the deployment, it'll say deployment failed. He'll say, what happened? The deployment failed. It'll say, you forgot to include that tag. And they want you to include that tag going forward. Now, there's other ways to do this, right? We could enforce that they use our ARM template to deploy this. So the company, the enterprise itself, could build an ARM template, and they could build sort of a custom UI on that and stuff. But that's a lot of work, right? This is really very simple. So we can define these kind of scripts at the subscription, resource group, or even individual level. And basically, we can apply those, at those levels so that we can guard against something. So if we put it at the subscription level and said, every time we need a tag, no matter what you put up there, we need to know who it's for. Otherwise, it's just going to kick back the deployment. So these are great scenarios where the security aspect is good, and we also have this business logic in here to help us kind of control our enterprise as we're going forward with these resources that we're providing inside Azure. And so that wraps the module on ARM policies in Azure.